Alabama bringing to SEC Media Days Jalen Milroe, junior quarterback Tyler Booker, offensive lineman as a junior, and Malachi Moore, one of the best defensive backs in all of college football, grad student. Arkansas, Andrew Armstrong, their new quarterback from Boise State, Talon Green, Landon Jackson, defensive end, and one of the best in the SEC. Auburn, they must be pretty comfortable with Peyton Thorne at quarterback. He's a senior, of course, former Michigan State Spartan. Eugene Asante, linebacker, senior, and Keldrick Falk, defensive end from Auburn, is going to attend. Man, back when I used to attend these SEC Media Days and cover the SEC Media Days, there was only 2 players then, if I recall correctly. Florida, Graham Mertz, former Badger at quarterback, had a remarkable comeback season last year. Shamar James, who was one of the highest rated players coming out of high school a couple years ago, inside linebacker, and of course the Louisiana running back, Montrell Johnson. We've got Georgia showing up with Carson Beck. We posted a video about a month ago where we looked at 8 different rankings, ratings, sites, and services. All of them had Carson Beck rated as the number 1 quarterback in college football. All of them, number 1. I don't disagree with that, but he does not strike me, at least through 1 season as a starter. He does not strike me as, and I'm not talking about skill sets. So I'm going to throw out a bunch of different skill set types of quarterbacks. I'm just talking about quality of play, being a game changer, either with your arm or your legs or both. He does not hit me as Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Michael Vick, Cam Newton. Capable, accomplished, poised, excellent arm, good enough athlete. That's how he strikes me after watching him play Auburn, Alabama. Georgia just didn't have that much of a schedule last year to watch him play that many times. Ole Miss. Probably started watching the Kentucky game, but that was such a wipeout that forget it. Michael Williams, great defensive lineman at Georgia, will show up at Media Days along with Malachi Starks, the safety. Kentucky's got Marquise Cox, offensive lineman, De'Eric Jackson, the linebacker, and Deion Walker, who is one of the very best players in the country at his position, the junior defensive lineman. LSU with a new quarterback, of course, in Garrett Nussmeier. We've talked a lot about him. Actually, we recorded on Monday with our guy Carter from LSU Power Hour. Check out those videos on the LSU and the SEC channels. Mason Taylor, one of the best tight ends in college football, caught the game winner against Alabama on the last play of the game 2 years ago. Harold Perkins, who, if unleashed and schemed the correct way, is devastating. I believe that Harold Perkins might be the best defensive player in college football. However, I don't know, as they attempt to make him an inside linebacker, that he's going to have the freedom to show that like he did 2 years ago. LSU would not have made the SEC championship game in 2022 without Harold Perkins playing his rear end off. They wouldn't have won some of those games, especially the Arkansas game. They almost got upset by Arkansas, and he just took over the game. Jaden Daniels and company could do nothing on offense in that game. Ole Miss, Jackson Dart. I believe Jackson Dart is possibly the most underrated elite quarterback in college football. I don't hear a lot about Jackson Dart. And I'll challenge myself here because a lot of people make comments about, Mark, this person's underrated, they're overrated. And I think, well, where are you getting that rating from? I'm just talking about in general, my perception of what's out there is that Jackson Dart is a good quarterback, but not necessarily regarded as one of the very best in college football. He is. Trey Harris is phenomenal. Between Trey Harris and a couple other Ole Miss wide receivers last year, there was a stretch of time. I think it was the Texas A&M game, and then it was the Georgia game, where I saw Ole Miss wide receivers make what I thought were the two best catches of the season, both coming from the same team. And Trey Harris was one of them. And I cannot recall who was it. Jordan Watkins made the other catch, possibly. Mississippi State with Blake Shapen, the former Baylor quarterback, coming to SEC Media Days along with Albert Reese, the offensive lineman, John Lewis, linebacker. He's a senior. Mizzou, Luther Burden exploded last year, the former five-star. Brady Cook at quarterback. This is obviously two of the big reasons why Mizzou is hyped for this season and Mizzou fans. And they are apparently a preseason top 10 team. I get it. Coming off 11-2 with a bowl win against Ohio State. Christian Williams at D-line. Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold. Now that Jackson Arnold and Jackson Dart are in the same conference, I don't know if that's going to make me more apt to confuse their names or not. I think I've got it straightened out now, but for a couple months, especially since neither one of them were playing, I kept juxtaposing their names. Jackson Arnold, Jackson Dart. Danny Stutzman racked up one of the most impressive defensive stat lines in college football last year. Billy Bowman did as well at Oklahoma. OU with a better defense this year, most likely, than they've had. So what's being discounted possibly at Oklahoma is that their defense could be better than it's been in a long time. So I understand the concern about a freshman or a first-time starting quarterback and not having overwhelming playmakers and then having to step up in class, especially in the trenches when they were not and have not been a dominant team in the trenches. And of course, we've got the question mark of playing in the SEC when Oklahoma has failed in games against the SEC, but those have been playing typically the best team in the SEC. So Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman, two of the most accomplished players on the defensive side in college football. And then finally, we've got South Carolina, Alex Huntley, defensive tackle, Luke Doty, who will play athlete, who will, I guess, roam around and be an H-back, wideout kind of guy, and certainly he can fill in at quarterback. That's what he's been in the past. Debo Williams at linebacker. Tennessee, Cooper Mays, the center, one of the very best. Keenan Pillai, linebacker. Omari Thomas, the defensive lineman as well. And then we've got Texas and Texas A&M. The Horns bring Quinn Ewers, Kelvin Banks, who's going to be a future top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Jahdae Barron, the defensive back as well. And we've got Texas A&M with Shamar Turner, defensive lineman, one of the very best. Torian York, linebacker, and Trey Zune, who's an offensive lineman. Texas A&M has many questions along the offensive line. And last but least, certainly the team you've all been waiting for. Who's going to show up for Vandy? Gunnar Hansen, offensive lineman, linebacker Langston Patterson, and the safety CJ Taylor.